the fact that this hadith, which Imam al-Bayhaqi relates in the Shu'b al-Iman, and it's in the Kanz al-Ummal and in the Mishkat, but this hadith is an important hadith in connecting the remembrance of death with the recitation of Qur'an. One of the essays that is in the study Qur'an that I actually wrote on the death in the Qur'an. And when I was originally asked to do that, it forced me to really read the Qur'an with the idea of death in mind. And what really struck me was that the fragrance of death is on every single page of the Qur'an. And those chapters that we're meant to recite on a regular basis, Yasin, Surat al-Waqi'ah and Surat al-Mulk, they're all death meditations from beginning to end. If you read them from that perspective, you'll clearly see that they're death meditations. And so the Qur'an is in essence really a death meditation. And this is not in some morbid sense. It's not the idea that we simply become morose and just filled with angst about life. It's actually to heighten the experience of life and the preciousness of life and the extraordinary opportunities that we have. I have a little cartoon that reminds me. Somebody did this cartoon where it showed the Grim Reaper coming to a man. He's at his typewriter, and the man says to him, "Thank God for deadlines." And that's a humorous idea, but a deadline. When you have a deadline, you work harder. And so the idea of having a deadline, meaning the end of your life, which you don't know when it will come, one would think that from that knowledge, we would simply be more apt to act in the present. As Longfellow says in his famous poem, "Act now in the living present." Because this is it, and our hearts, like muffled drums, are beating funeral marches to the grave. This is the reality of it. Our heartbeat, each heart, we have only a certain amount that are allotted for us. We have a certain amount of breaths that are allotted for us. We have approximately 20,000 days in an average lifespan. 20,000 days. It's not a lot. If you have $20,000 and start just handing them out one by one, they'll be gone very quickly. It's not a lot of money. And 20,000 days is not a lot of time. And it seems that the righteous people are people that really understand the preciousness of time. But Ramadan is a precious time. And so even though we've squandered much of the year, let's not squander this extraordinary month that we've been given, that even has a day that's like 1,000 months. I mean, it's so extraordinary that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put that much barakah in this. So tilawat al-Qur'an is really important. And so my advice to myself and all of you, it's something that I do every Ramadan, is really disengage from a lot of things that keep us occupied during the month. So I would really, really recommend that everybody turn off their media. Just don't listen to it. You can get by without knowing what's going on, because what's really going on is in the Qur'an. And this is why Thoreau's famous remark about not reading the times, but reading the eternities. The Times was, like today we have the New York Times, the Times was a newspaper in Massachusetts. So he was saying, read the eternities, read those things that last. Because you can take a newspaper from 10 years ago, and I guarantee you won't know, if nobody tells you the date, you won't know by and large that it's any different from today. It's all the same stuff. This is dunya. It's just, it repeats itself over and over again. The scandals come, the scandals go. A politician rises, a politician falls. There's a war somewhere, a lot of people die. This is dunya. It's been going on for millennia. And the Qur'an is reminding us of the eternal truths, not of these temporal truths. And so it's really important for us to really use this time to do as much reflection on the Book of Allah as we can. There's a hadith that Imam al-Tabarani and Daraqutni relate from Aisha radiallahu anha, that says, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قراءة القرآن في الصلاة أفضل من قراءة القرآن في غير الصلاة. That recitation of the Qur'an in the prayer is better than recitation of the Qur'an outside of the prayer. And so Taraweeh is a really good opportunity to recite the Qur'an in prayer, which is better than reciting the Qur'an outside of the prayer. But then he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or is reported to have said, that قراءة القرآن في غير الصلاة أفضل من التكبير والتسبيح. That reading the Qur'an is better than takbir and tasbih. In other words, doing other forms of dhikr, because it's the best of all dhikrs. And it doesn't negate La ilaha illallah is the best. There's afdalu dhikr, La ilaha illallah. It doesn't negate that hadith, because La ilaha illallah is from the Qur'an. So you're actually, when you say La ilaha illallah, you're actually reciting from the Qur'an. So the Qur'an is the best type of dhikr that we can do, and coupled with prayer is the very best. And I once asked Murabt al-Hajj wal-Fahfu rahimahullah about Dalail al-Khairat, and he said it was a good book, Dalail al-Khairat, but he said, well, Qur'anu ahsan, but the Qur'an is better. So reading the Qur'an and getting back to the Qur'an is really something very important for this community. There's another beautiful hadith that Imam Muslim relates عن أبي أمامة قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول اقرأوا القرآن فإنه يأتي يوم القيامة شفيعا لأصحابه. Read the Qur'an or recite the Qur'an, because it will come on the Day of Judgment as an intercessor for those who were its companions. So Ashab al-Quran are the people that are always with the Quran, that recite it all of the time. And Imam al-Bayhaqi relates a hadith from Anas, from the Prophet ﷺ, that said, نوّروا منازلكم بالصلاة وقراءة القرآن. Illumine your houses, your domiciles, with prayer and recitation of Qur'an. There's hadiths that indicate not to make your house a graveyard. A house, if you recite Al-Baqarah in your home, shaitan will not even think about entering that house for 3 days. So the Qur'an is a protection